So,
Hey, welcome to Book World, The Great Escape. I'm CJ Peterson with my co-host, author Michael Scott Clifton. Today we have a special guest, Ms. Carolyn L. Dean, author. We're going to be talking about cozy mysteries today. Before we do so, Mike, how was your week?
It's been pretty busy. We were at the Henderson County Library Con last Saturday, and this week I'll be at the Longview Art Walk, and fellow authors Patty Wiseman and Phyllis Still will be there. We'll be in the Vera Bank lobby. Of course, the Longview Art Walk is an inside-outside venue, so there'll be tons of vendors outside. Of course, it's an art-related uh, event. So it'll be from 5 to 8. We'll be in the Vera Bank, which is in old downtown Longview. I think that's on, every year I get stuck on the road, Front Street or down that historic downtown area, which the city of Longview has done a tremendous job restoring. There's lots of neat little shops, restaurants, and cafes down there. And also the art museum is just like 100, 200 feet down the road down the same block from where we'll be at Vera Banks. And finally, I had a book. I guess you kind of gave me a heads up on that book deal, greatbookdeals.com, CJ,
Yep.
for the series. They did the series for me, the Conquest of the Veil series, and it did real well. Yeah, it was, and they did a great job. I sold a lot of books over a couple of day period online. 90% of them were ebooks, but hey, that's what digital sales are for. So anyway, it's been a great week.
Good job. Good deal. Well, mine's been pretty good. I think it looks like you might have frozen up a little bit there in the end. But my week was pretty good. Had a lot of fun, relaxing time, family time after the rush of a book launch, which you know how that always goes. And so I'm kind of gearing up for the annual Texas Sisters Press anthology. And so I'm getting everything uploaded and formatted and ready to go and getting ready to go. But that's like 12 authors that I have to kind of keep in line to do so. But it's fun. And we're targeting for a November 3rd or 4th launch. And you're going to have like 12 authors and one huge launch party. And it starts and kicks off the holiday season. So love doing that. Yep. Super excited about that. It's just a bunch of has to be family friendly, holiday themed, and between 3,500 to 7,500 words. And of course, you know me, take a guess as to what my number count is for my word count.
7,500.
I've done that 3 years in a row.
Hard one. That's a hard one.
It's usually 7,499 or 7,500, and I get it right there because I'm
Wow.
Like, that's right at So we try to do it that way. Miss Carolyn, how have you been?
I'm good.
Tell people a little bit about you who don't know anything about you.
Sure. So my name's Carolyn L. Dean, and it's one of my 3 pen names. I'm mostly known for writing cozy mysteries, which are the kind of mostly bloodless, little softer mysteries. I also have written romance. I've written nonfiction. I've been full-time author now for over 5 years. And let's see, I'm USA Today bestselling author. And as of, I don't know, is it cheesy if I say how many books I have out?
No, not at all.
No.
So last February, I actually hit 1 million books in circulation.
Nice.
Wow.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
I
Wow.
goofing around on a spreadsheet because I kind of live and die by spreadsheets, and for fun, I started looking at where the sales were. And so, I mean, I was much more active. I'm just now, after a move cross country here to Texas, getting more active.
Welcome to God's
looking forward to putting new books out.
So welcome to God's country, first of all.
I love Texas. I love it.
Second of all, so how many actual books do you have?
Under this pen name, I have the 26th one, I think, is coming out in November.
And
And
how
that'll
long
be
have you been published?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been published?
I started, let's see, the first pen name came out in 2000 and I think 16.
Nice.
So
Well, congratulations.
Very prolific.
thanks.
Very
Definitely
good.
prolific.
I like telling stories.
I think I have 16, 17, something like
Oh,
that.
that's awesome.
And mine have been since 2012. So I'm right up there behind you.
If you're at 2012, that's like generations for writers or shorter than generations for families. That makes you a fabulous veteran because you look at the revolution that's changed. Oh, I know, but how ebooks have come along, and indie publishing, and the difference, whether everybody needs an agent and such like that, and all the industries that have sprung up to support and sometimes bilk authors. I mean, you've seen a lot of things come and go. So my hat's off to you.
Thank you. It's fun. I enjoy it. And then Mike, you have 4, 5, 6, 7?
Seven books, yeah.
Okay. But you also have 2 audio?
Yeah, actually 3. Edison Jones and the Antigrav Elevator just got a alert from ACX that it's now audible. So, and then the 4th one will be the Open Portal, and that should be in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So, yeah, I had got 2 audiobooks, one that's currently live and the other one that will be live in, well, 2, or that makes 3 that are live, and the third one will be live next 2 or 3 weeks. It's in quality review, and that you never know how long that's going to take. Week, 2 weeks, who knows?
Yeah. One of the things that impressed me about you, Mike, is that you do so many in-person signings. I'm a hopeless introvert, and so I'm happy to go ahead and have Amazon kind of do my stuff. I'll go to author conferences, but you're very personable and really good about getting people engaged with your paperbacks and everything. And I think that's a wonderful gift because I definitely don't have that. So it was nice to see different festivals and such.
Well, it's fun. CJ and I run into, we're at a number of similar venues, but started doing a lot of comic cons 2 or 3 years ago. And when you write sci-fi fantasy, that's a more favorable venue, than the ladies book club that you might speak to. So yeah, it's fun. You do get to meet characters too, as CJ, I know you can attest to that as well.
Love comic.
Yep,
they're great.
They're great.
Yeah,
they're awesome.
A little bit, so you're kind of protected from that most of that world, but you get to see some really cool things and meet tons of really cool people, especially your book falls into that genre. But you're a mystery, so you would still fit into that genre.
I am a mystery.
Yeah. You can be an enigma, but so speaking of mysteries and cozy mysteries, what's the difference between like a general mystery versus a cozy mystery?
So general mystery is pretty much an umbrella over the top of them. If you think about something, where there's a lot of violence or something like that, maybe it's a thriller. That'd be a different flavor of mystery. Cozy mystery. If you think about, for your older viewers, Murder, She Wrote, where it's a small town, and this is what most people think of as cozy mystery. Is it's going to be an amateur sleuth who's going to be the one who puts the pieces together, maybe in a bit of danger to figure out exactly what happens. A cozy mystery doesn't have to be a murder mystery. I have one that was written that was about a necklace that had quite a history behind it. And cozy mysteries tend to be pretty character driven instead of maybe that pulse pounding excitement of you'd have with a thriller or something like that. It's not a noir. Also, cozies themselves can have subgenres. I have one series that I like to travel in real life. And so when I travel to someplace new, I will write a book about it. So I have an international series that's set in, Belgium and France and England and things like that. Nice. So there's kind of different flavors. One of the most famous cozy authors out there, Amanda Lee, writes a more urban series of cozy mysteries. So there's a pretty broad spectrum, even in our little community.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Cool.
So my wife loves cozy mysteries, Carolyn.
Well, I love
That's
your
her
wife
genre.
then.
Yeah. So so if you were like if she were to get she's new to you as an author, has never read any of your
Mm.
books or any of your series, what would you recommend as an ideal first book for her to read that would introduce her to you as a writer and as an author and to
Well,
your
the first,
cozy mysteries?
yeah, I appreciate the question because I have to admit I do have a favorite. It's actually the first one I ever wrote, and it's a beginner of a 16 book. It will be a 16 book series once this new book is out, and it's called Bed, Breakfast, and Bones. And it's out
Bed,
on
breakfast, and let me
and
write that down.
bones. There's
What?
something
Bed,
horrible
breakfast, and
buried in
bones.
the garden. So it's
How
the beginning of the Ravenwood Cove Mystery Series, which is set on the Oregon coast.
Mhm.
And it's a
Okay.
little town that's been kind of bypassed by the freeway, and chaos ensues.
Mhm.
Wow. Well,
So
she
that one, it's been
I
out. That was
recommend-
the first one out. It's got like 3,500 reviews on it,
reviews.
so it's been read
Okay.
quite a bit.
Wow. Wow.
I would imagine if you dig up a garden and you find bones, that chaos.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, it's not what you expect when you're refurbishing an old inn. So
And that is a series. So
it
each book.
is.
Okay.
It
Okay.
is. It's a Redwood Cove series, and there's um, I really have had fun with the characters in there. I am a hopelessly sentimental person, so I tend to put things in that series, specifically in the Rainwood series, which is the longest one under the Carolyn name. I tend to put things in there that I love that maybe have gone from my life. As much as I'm widowed from my first husband, his car, a 64 Impala SS, is in there.
Mm,
I have pets that still live in there. I have
mm.
the 90-plus-year-old, one of the main characters is based on my grandmother and another lady I used to care for. And so it's been really fun to kind of build this imaginary world, but it has these characters in it that to me they're real. I remember them. We just actually lost one of the people who was the basis. He was a very unique, lovely person, very eccentric and artistic, and he was the basis for a character called Truman in my books. And we're very sad that we have lost him recently, but he's going to live on. I intend for him to have a very happy ending and a good life in my books.
there you go. See, if you want to live forever, befriend an author, because
Yeah.
we pick up characters all the time from real life. There's a couple of my characters that have come from real people.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, what got you started in writing specifically cozy mysteries versus some other genre?
That's another great question. With me, when I first started learning about indies, I had a coworker that was able to quit her job and go be an indie author. And I kind of went down her path about romance. But when I really sat back and thought, well, what's my voice? What would I read? What do I want to bring to the world? For me, my voice, the way I write tends to be a little bit more old fashioned. I like more old fashioned books, I guess. The sentences may be a little bit longer. I do third person. I like character driven. To me, it's all about, did they find the missing baby, or, things like that. So when I really sat down and analyzed before I really got into even really reading cozies, I said, what's my voice? How's my brain wired to put those thoughts out? And I realized that was my genre. And so I went out and I started reading like crazy, and I went down to Barnes and Noble and I looked at the books and I started figuring out what the covers, even as much as what colors were on the covers. How did they brand a series? What sort of fonts were they using? I read a lot of the top authors in it to see what did I love, and what was something I said, well, it's not my cup of tea. And that's how I got into cozies, was just because I fell in love with the genre myself. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of different things, but especially right now, the reason I've continued so much with cozies besides the fact it's a bread and butter for me, is the fact right now in the world, there are a lot of people who could really use a happy ending,
Mhm.
who could
Mhm.
use a
Yep.
bit of diversion, a bit of,
Right.
fun, things away from reality, and could use something being wrapped up and having something be fun. I used to think of my writing as being really, I don't know how to put it, but minor is the only word I can think of, because I'm not, I'm a person of faith. I'm not edifying through, something about that. And then I started having readers who would write me, much to my surprise. I'm like, oh, I just write these little potato chip books, they're just, to make
Chip books. That's
potato chip books. You read them and it's like, oh, that was very satisfying and kind of fun. But I started having people write and say, you got me through chemo. I mean, I'm crying. I'm a cancer widow. You don't think that just, oh,
bless your heart.
yeah, well, bless theirs too. And I mean, or somebody saying, I appreciate the fact, I had a lady wrote and said, I appreciate the fact you have a Native American. She owns the toy store in my little Ravenwood world. And she says, I appreciate your having her be just a person.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I started getting those sort of emails, I started realizing that there were people wrote and said, where is this place? I want to go visit. So that was unbelievable to me, that something as simple as the words coming out of, my fingertips
Mm-hmm.
could have any sort of impact on anybody else. So I think about that a lot. That's the reason you asked me why I got into cozies. I know I'm kind of blabbing here, but the reason I stated it was because it still is what I love to read. When I find those good authors that I like, C.C. James and such, like Lena Turner. But I think there is a place for making people happy and diverted. I mean, Mike's been writing, adventure stuff, and I'm certain people enjoy that time that you get a break away. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I was at a writers conference once back when I was starting out, and one of the speakers was a romance writer. She wrote hot romance, and I think her main characters were usually firemen, I believe it was. She was from the Houston area. Don't remember her name now, but anyway, without getting into the weeds, one of the things she said that stuck with me ever since, which is kind of what you're saying, Carolyn, is that people, when you are writing, whatever your genre is, okay, uh, don't hold back. Okay, don't assume that any idea or thought or process you're following is too far fetched. I mean, you can always go back and change it. And then she followed up with that saying, because you have to remember that when people are reading, they read fiction to escape.
yeah,
And so you're
believe that.
creating that world for them. And so, you know, you it'd be hard to be overly, I mean, to go too over the top on elaboration and scene and things like that, which I'm sure there is. But her point was, if you're going to err on the side of creating as big a picture and as bright and as detailed as you can, because again, people read for escape. They
Yeah,
want to go into that world. So
yeah,
anyway, that sounds a lot like what you're saying.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
I see
one,
CJ nodding too.
well, the one piece of advice I always heard, which kind of connected with what you said earlier, is write the book you want to read.
Yes, exactly.
Timeless, but make it the book that you want to read.
Yeah.
Because I've always gone with the theory: if there's no tears from the writer, there's no tears from the reader. If there's no laughter from the writer, there's no laughter from the reader. So you need to be just as immersed into the story as much as the reader is.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. I have something as simple as my grandparents had a farm, which after they passed became a subdivision. You know what? That farm is somewhere in my world. And, I can, when I write about it, maybe it's my own cheap version of therapy, but I get to go and experience those memories again. And I enjoy that. So
So what is going to be next for you?
what's coming next?
Besides of the series.
Oh, for the series. So,
no, 16 for the series. What's coming next for you?
Oh, next for me. Well, for the series is I have a Christmas book that's coming out that will be out in November. And that is going to be about a new character in Ravenwood who finds something terrible in the little shop he's renting. So for me personally, I'm working on a thriller. Now, I cheated before I came on your podcast. I went back and looked at some of your previous ones just to see what I was getting into. And Mike mentioned about liking The Stand, and
And you still came. Good girl.
I did. You guys are awesome.
Wow.
But Mike mentioned in one of them about how he liked the book The Stand. And I'm working on a thriller. I'm not certain I have the chops for it. It won't be under this name. It'll be something completely separate. You don't want people who are reading pretty clean cozies to be into Everybody Dies.
No.
That could be a terrible shock. So I think that's coming down the pike if I can figure out how to do it. And I would love to have any element of the intertwining stories that something like The Stand has, but that's something new for me to write. I'm really going to have to build up my skills as a writer to be able to pull that off. So I'm still learning. I guess that's kind of odd after putting out a bunch of books, but different genres, different expectations. So and different skills.
And different cast of characters. I know my first 13 books were a set of 5, a set of 3, a set of 4, and a standalone. But the characters all crossed over storylines. So I was with the same characters for almost 10 years. And so changing over characters, writing for 10 years. So changing over characters was like a whole new ballgame because it's like, okay,
moving to a new town.
Forever, can I do this again?
Yeah.
And it's fun and it's exciting, but it's kind of a little scary. It's like, well, people like these characters as much as they like the other ones. You just don't know.
I've done a couple little spin-offs.
Question though.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
16 books. What happened in this little town? There's all sorts of creepy stuff happening. We're 16 books if it's
well, I'll tell you, I went to the NINC conference about a week ago in Florida, and there's a lot of cozy mysteries, a lot of, mystery authors there. And I wore a t-shirt that I got off online somewhere, and it had a picture of Angela Lansbury as, Murder, She Wrote. And on top and bottom, it says, I killed them all. And I thought, and it made me laugh because, really the only common denominator with however many people in her little town who had died was her. So maybe she's a master criminal and she just, orchestrated the whole thing and manipulated people into confessing.
Wow.
But it made me laugh because of the same thing about how do you keep things going where you don't have people wanting to flee your small town because everyone's getting.
I would have left a long time ago.
Yeah.
Town.
Yeah.
Like you have to have a new town.
Mortality rate is off the charts here.
Exactly.
Check the mortality rate. I know as a literary assassin, I always check the mortality rate of a town before we move.
Yeah.
I do.
Smart girl.
I do.
Hey.
I'll take the mortality rate and the weather. Those are two things.
Yeah.
Is the population going up or is it going down? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So Carolyn, you are obviously a very successful author. So you've probably learned a thing or two along the way. So for aspiring authors who are just starting out, or even for experienced authors, what kind of advice would you give? What kind of, for example, what pitfalls to avoid? What should they concentrate on? Just like I said, just a brief advice on if an author is just starting out, and you could give them, kind of like the 30-second elevator pitch that you give for your books. What would you tell them in terms of advice?
A gold nugget to walk away with.
Right.
So I can tell them that because I mentor other people also who are new, and I've taught classes on indie publishing. I'm so excited about it. I wanted to share. It's like, you can get your stuff out in the world. So for me, when I go through and look at newbie authors, especially, it's the two things they cut costs on because it's so expensive. It can be expensive to do these things are covers and editing. And I have to admit, I'm gonna put myself up as an example of mistakes I have made that I've had to learn. I'm going back right now and re-editing Backlist because and expanding it and making it better. And all of one of the series is getting completely recovered, which is going to cost me an arm and a leg. But because I want it to be better, because I'm getting ready to do a big leap into another new series that's coming. It's going to be set in Montana. You guys first to know.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that a lot of times writers, they go, well, I like the cover, or I think it's good enough. And the thing is, if you're, it's, if that's, you wanted your mom to buy it, that's cool. That's awesome. Do it. If you're looking and saying, I would like to make my money back at least with this book, really go out on Amazon. You can actually go onto the bestseller list, look at the top 100 covers in that genre. And there'll be some outliers that, they're going to be on there because they have a BookBub special feature deal or something exotic like that. But a lot of those, you'll start noticing the same sort of things again and again. Go out, look at the covers, what fonts they use, what colors they use, what, how does it look? Is it dark? Is it light? Go out and look at the blurbs. What do the blurbs look like when you read them? It's just a couple paragraphs. Are they making you want to buy the book?
Mm-hmm.
So really, I would say do your research. And then the second thing is, and I'm not saying go get a $5,000 editor, but I'm saying, for heaven's sakes, run it through where you've got people eyes on your book before you get it out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who knows something, don't have it be, just your roommate. Get it. If you don't have the budget for it, that's fine. You can do that with no money. Have a bunch of smart, literate friends read it, and you'll be amazed. They will pick out different things. One will say, this is inconsistent. One will say, use the word that too many times. It's amazing how they'll pick up different things. So I would say, do your research ahead of time and roll out the best quality you can roll out right out of the gate. And never take your readers for granted. If they write you and say, and this was a mistake I made, we had some deaths in the family, went through some depression, and I did not take care of my readers like I should have. If they write and say, I love your book, or say anything, write them back. Love on them, because they are wonderful and they're bread and butter. And that's probably more than 30 seconds, Mike. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
No,
the
totally agree.
editing part is we have a critique group that I belong to,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 6 people. 2 of them are editors, have been editors at some point. So if I had a nickel for every mistake they found, this is even now, boy, I could retire rich and I'd never have to worry about money again, because
Yeah, that'd be a new car for me, let me tell you.
yes, you can read your own stuff 1,000 times and you miss the most obvious stuff, So yeah, it happens again and again. That's very good advice. Very good
I
advice.
listen to mine in my headphones too.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I can't edit. I am super critical. I can edit and proofread somebody else's, no problem at all, because I can pick on them. But I can't. I'm blind to my own mistakes. And I will even listen to my book before I get it to an editor in headphones, because with me, I will skip words, which is really annoying. But all of a sudden, you'll be listening and realize, ding, something sounds wrong there. So that's another good tip, is listen to your book.
Yeah, or if you've like inverted 2 letters. I do the same thing.
Oh, yes.
Or your
reader, and
or
you just
your
the PDF and you listen to it, and it catches a lot.
Exactly. Me too.
you can read. I think your mind sometimes subconsciously adds things to a sentence that is never there, but you think it is. I went to the store. I went the store, and you're reading that. I went to the store. You'd say, well, no, the two's not there, but yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Guilty.
What we do is, well, my husband and I will read it aloud while he watches. That's the first one. And then I will also send it through Voice Dreamer. So there's a set of eyes while I'm reading, and then I have my own ears while I'm reading. Then we send it to an editor and redo it all over again.
Yeah.
And it's a content and a copy editor, 2 different ones. And so, yeah, we have no less than 4 eyes in that sucker. And yeah, before it goes up. But, well, you've been such a treat to come on, and I really appreciate
thank you for having me.
It's I know it's fun. A little stressful in the beginning because we were trying to get the sound sorted. But
yeah, I'm sorry about that. My laptop wasn't cooperating, but I appreciate you guys having me on here. It was great fun.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you taking their time. So next week on the 12th of October, we will be back with character inspiration regarding names and people. Where do you get them? How do you use them? Is there a legal way if you end up talking about somebody, specific, like you've named a character after somebody else. How do you work around that sort of stuff? And so we'll find that out next week. Same place you found us today. Facebook, LinkedIn, or Facebook or YouTube. Sorry. Facebook or YouTube. We're Book World, The Great Escape. Thank you, Miss Carolyn Dean. To check out her books, you can go to carolyndeanbooks.com, CarolynDeanBooks.com. Thank you, Miss Carolyn. We appreciate your time and your advice.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Mike. Everybody have a great day.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.